I think one of them is this. Because if I'm saying maybe Nico Harrison was ill prepared to be a general manager and not somebody with the background you'd want for that. He was a sneaker rep. I think to fans, maybe that doesn't mean a whole lot. And it's no different from being an agent, but it is a particular kind of job. You're managing talent. You're making Kobe Bryant feel really good. That's not an executive role. That's not weighing big decisions. That's not dealing with the pain, as Brad Stevens was talking about in an interview, of I love Marcus Smart, but he's got to go. We need Porzingis more. It's not that kind of job. And you're not in the NBA in that way. And even if you could say it's like being an agent, the agent is in an adversarial circumstance. He's negotiating constantly. And so I don't think it was the right kind of job. But here's the thing. Somebody might ask, well, why didn't we know about it? The Mavericks went to the finals. They went to the conference finals. Why didn't we know about it? And I think you guys probably know. You guys probably know the reason. Some of you know. And it's that Mark Cuban was running the Dallas Mavericks. He was their GM. So ultimately what happened is that we didn't really know what Nico Harrison would be as a general manager until the real general manager, who wasn't admitting he was the general manager, but was effectively the city's other Jerry Jones, shockingly left the building. And now we're seeing this is Nico Harrison management. It's making a trade that the entire league laughs at and shakes their heads in amazement at. It was just never designed to be this. It was never designed to be Nico Harrison running the Dallas Mavericks as an executive, making executive decisions. But when Mark sold the team and hightailed it out of here, nobody was rude enough to bring this up as a problem, and Mark certainly wasn't. He wasn't going to go, hey, the guy I hired to be GM, it's not really a GM, but good luck with it. No, he didn't say that. He got out of here. Nico Harrison, Peter principled, Luka Doncic out. That's what happened as I see it.
Yeah,
well, perhaps at first it was Cuban. The thought was he was going to kind of still be running basketball.
Yeah. I mean, there's been reports that like he was surprised even by hearing that he couldn't sit in certain places, which in retrospect feels like something Nico's like anonymously calling the league, like, hey, I don't know if Cuban's supposed to be over here doing this or that. I mean, who else would care? And, you know, like, for example, I don't know what Joe Lacob's background was before he bought the Warriors, but he seems like a guy who really, even as a product that he can commodify, loves basketball. But in the Mavericks case, they brought in a guy who his quotes sound like AI when he talks about the game. He's like, you can set up a hoop anywhere. It's fun for families. It's like, holy shit, this guy doesn't watch basketball. And so you have just like this unchecked guy in Nico with nobody above him. So
it perhaps has no bearing on whether Nico Harrison is a competent person or not. But what I'll say is this, not knowing Nico all that well, met him a few times. I don't know him all that well. Nobody who had his job had ever been elevated to the job of general manager in the National Basketball Association. There are people of a variety of backgrounds who can realistically be elevated to GM, and you could say that they had the requisite experience. I don't think that was the case with Nico Harrison. Again, this is inside baseball or basketball as it were. People from the outside might go, well, Nike shoe rep, potato, who cares? You're making no, it is a highly intensive, complicated job to be a general manager. It is miserable, by the way. I've never been a happy general manager except for Daryl Morey, and I think by his own admission, he's weird. You're balancing so many things, so many internecine battles. You need standing within the NBA, either working with a team or having been an agent. I still think agent is suboptimal, even though Rob Pelinka made a pretty good argument for the agent side in getting this deal done. And I don't think can just come on over from Portland, Oregon, the Nike offices, and run an NBA team. That's just not something that is realistic in most cases. And you don't know certain things. You don't have a good grasp of relative value. It makes total sense to everybody running other teams that this is horrible value for Luka. But if you're coming in from Nike HQ, that might not be immediately obvious. And for all of Mark Cuban's faults as a shadow GM and his occasional buffoonery, I think these aspects would just be intuitive born out from experience, from the various battle scars and mistakes that he had made running the Mavericks. I just think this is what happens sometimes. You Peter Principle somebody. I think Mark is not a nuanced thinker. I think he's all action, no thought a lot of the time. And just as he might go, bring me somebody with whatever census categories who has absolutely no connection to my sport and organization to be president or what have you. I think similarly, it's okay, I need connections. I need somebody who can bring me talent. And I'm trying to do this DEI thing. Let's get somebody who's never been part of NBA ops. And the effects are fairly disastrous, it would seem.
Yeah, even for you to bring that up in the most recent article that Nico just shouldn't even have gotten the job. That's kind of something we covered, 5 years ago, whenever he did get the job.
Yeah. Sure.
And I kind of forgot about it because,
Yeah.
They've been to the finals. They got to the Western Conference. But then when I think of how they got to the finals and got to the Western Conference Championship and whatnot, I am reminded of I got a buddy who works for the Cavs. And we used to laugh when we would look through their media guide, and they had like 2 pages, maybe even 3 in the media guide on the director of ticket sales, and they were just going through how great this guy was at ticket sales because in X year they increased their ticket sales by 100 and whatever %. Like, oh, unbelievable! And he sold this many suites. And
what a guru! What did he do?
Well, then if you kind of look through you figure, they drafted LeBron that year.
Yeah.
And then all the, like,
what a marketing genius.
And this guy gets two pages in the media guide and a big raise and a big, and that's, in a sense, Nico. He's brought the team,
Yeah, another way to put that, too, is like no team would have hired him had they not already had Luka. Like, you're not hiring him to find the next Luka. We all just kind of accepted it like, oh, shit, they already got the guy. They got the hard part. So if he knows some people and he's able to grease the skids a little bit, Cuban has never really had the inroads with USA basketball / black players. This will be fine because Cuban is still kind of there. You would have never hired him to do a rebuild.
If you want to get Nico on the couch and start wondering about why he did this, the name Kobe Bryant should be brought up. Because just think of Nico's perspective. Kobe Bryant, center of Nico Harrison's universe. He is Kobe Bryant's rep at Nike. He's with Kobe all the time. He thinks the world of Kobe. He worships Kobe. Now he's running the Dallas Mavericks. And there is another superstar, but that superstar, as great as he is, possibly greater than Kobe. I don't want to commit a heresy, but possibly greater than Kobe. But he gets fat. He doesn't seem to care as much. He's not waking up at 4 a.m. to do those insane workouts Kobe does.
Renting out a gym when he's on vacation with his family?
Nope. Yep. He's not. He's not of the Mamba mentality. And you just start thinking of the resentments that might stoke. Because GMs, they get resentful. They really do. And one of the things they get resentful most about is when a guy won't get in shape. Because they're just moving mountains and they're putting out fires and whatever metaphors I might want to mix. And then we get to the playoffs and the guy you're relying on to take you to the promised land when everybody else is busting their ass is not in shape. You got to wonder how that informed Nico's perspective, looking at Luka and going, man, when I was with Kobe, he would do anything to improve himself, and not being able to compartmentalize and realize, yeah, okay, Luka doesn't have the Mamba mentality, but ultimately he's still a top 3 player, and you just can't do this. But I wonder how much of the inspiration to do this was informed by watching another guy who went about it in a no-holds-bar sort of way.
That makes sense, and it is interesting. Our view has been we would have liked to give Luka a little more time to figure out, hey, this will actually hurt your body. Now you're not a top 3 player, you're top 10 if you don't start mixing in the kale. So that does track to me, and it kind of dovetails with something else I was thinking, which, Kobe did not grow up playing basketball in America necessarily, but this is my sort of theory for today. some time ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, it was after the Mavericks had drafted Luka and he had success. Cuban sort of, you might have written about this because it's a very House of Strauss-like topic. Cuban stepped in it a little bit he's speaking extemporaneously about why Luka has had such success so early, and he extolled the structure of the academy model in Europe and said, I'll read it. It's important because you're used to people being older than you, but I think you just learned how to play basketball. That's the biggest gift. If you look at the basketball education of kids starting at 11 years old in Europe, and particularly Slovenia, it's basketball-oriented. We take our best kids here, 7 years before they're McDonald's All-Americans. We send them to Slovenia. The league would be 1,000 times better. That is an indirect shot at the American AAU system. And it's one, frankly, that I've kind of held for a long time, but it ends up being racially tinged. My theory is that Cuban said that, believed it, and this is our Seth Meyers and Barack Obama at the White House press correspondents' dinner for Nico, because Nico is an AAU guy. He is the Nike guy. He wants Kyrie's path, and Anthony Davis's and Klay Thompson's, and he looked at all this and was like, I don't give a fuck about Dirk. I don't care about what Donnie Nelson and Mark Cuban did. I got a way I do things, and this is who I'm going to go get. I don't like the way that you talked about my guys.
Do I have to patriotically support Nico Harrison now? Go America, Team
Right?
America.
I just like good basketball.
As I hear this.
Yeah.
We want to talk about the Kobe connection as well, too. I mean, Kobe's former agent is Rob Pelinka, and we're talking about the origin story of Nico. Who's the guy you got to be in good with? Who's the guy you have to be placating and making him happy? And maybe you even have a Pavlovian. You've just got this Pavlovian drive to do so. For years, you're trying to make Rob Pelinka happy. You're trying to make Rob Pelinka happy. You're trying to make Rob Pelinka happy. Now you're running the Dallas Mavericks. That old voice is on the phone. Time to make Rob happy. I mean, I don't think it's that simple, but you wonder about it. It's hard to see him just doing this lopsided of a deal without that pre-existing relationship where he was having to serve Rob Pelinka. And on the Rob Pelinka side, I wonder if you're in that room with the Lakers, if at some point you say, we got to throw in something else. This trade might get canceled. The league might step in. There was something nice to me about seeing the pain of the fans in a bittersweet way and just being reminded what a passionate sports town Dallas is outside of the Cowboys. And there is something real to that. Seeing people show up in front of American Airlines and express how they felt about it. Because so much of what I've written is just, there's been this waning cultural impact of the NBA and this sense that the regular season doesn't matter. And a lot of the things that I cared about watching the sport have been fading out and fading away. And again, in a very bittersweet way, I liked being reminded of how many Dallas Mavericks fans really cared, were invested in this guy's career, had watched him since he was a kid, and we're just expressing this righteous anger of, you can't do this to us. This is wrong. This is wrong beyond you're incorrect in making the decision. This is like the social contract being broken. And while I'm sad that it happened, and I wish it hadn't happened for you guys, I thought it just validated and showcased the passion of a sports town that people often really don't give that credit. So that's an additional thought I had about this.
You're welcome. Yeah, we're
glad we could provide that.
We're happy to provide that to the nation.
Sorry you had to bleed to show that you guys had blood, but yeah.
There's some unique things about his contract that we had to pay attention to. There's other teams that were loading up, that he was going to be able to decide make his own decision at some point of whether he wants to be here or not, whether we want to supermax him or not, or whether he wants to opt out. So I think we had to take all that into consideration and feel like we got out in front of what could have been a tumultuous summer.
Well, I'm glad his summer's
up. He's not a baseball player. This isn't a situation where you're in a bidding war and the Dodgers roll out $1 billion and you can't compete with it. You just max him. I'm sorry, it's just crazy to me. If teams are loading up, it means he's coveted.
Okay,
that's what I said yesterday. Like, why are they doing that?
You've noted the quote that I care about is whether we want to supermax him or not. What do you mean? That is not a thing. Like, if if you have a Luka, you're excited that you're allowed to supermax him. I am really happy that Nico will now not have a tumultuous summer because I was hoping that he'd be able to keep his blood pressure down. But
oh my God,
that is the only thing that kind of makes me say the ownership may have been, look, we don't want to pay that supermax amount to him, or at the I don't know, what we're kind of thinking is ownership probably did say that, and they said, what do you think, basketball man that is hired to run our basketball? And he's actually, Nico said, yeah, I don't know, he is kind of fat. Don't think he doesn't work hard like Kobe. Maybe we don't want to maximize. You know who you would want to pay that money to? A guy like Anthony Davis. Might be a little older.
Hard Scrabble Davis.